most of our forests are very, very young. And that's the problem with what's happening right now. We know that our forests have been taken down 3 different times since the coming of the European. And now they're growing back again. But in the name of clean energy, we feel like we got to chop them down. Wait, what? Huh? I've had people on my channel tell me there's no forests that are getting cut down to put up solar farms. 1, 2, 3. So I'm walking down this fairly good-sized dirt road because I want to show you something. I don't know how close I want to get to it. I don't think there's anybody down here right now. And, you know, we're walking through a cleared road strip. We got some mountain laurel. We got some goldenrod. I saw some Queen Anne's lace. We're in a marshy area. Some really neat marsh grasses are growing. And then we look ahead of us and we can see a fenced-in complex with distant white pines. So here we're looking at a solar farm that's being added to all the time as more forest, regrowing southern New England forest is cleared so that the landowner can save a little bit of money. Well, maybe even make a little bit of money. You see, they own this land, in many cases lumber companies, in many cases just private landowners that once upon a time had crops growing here or sheep pasturages, and they've got the land. They could hand it over to the state to make a state forest out of it or add it to the state forest. That's been done. But rather, I suppose, they'd make some money on it the old-fashioned way. Let the land make money for them. Once upon a time, people here in southern New England cut firewood, they cut wood for charcoal burning purposes, they cut lumber for shipping, they cut lumber to build their homes. Lumber has always been a big part of the New England experience. After that, there was the Merino Sheep Craze. And that led to the near deforestation of southern New England. About 80% of the land below 2,000 feet was cleared for those crazy sheep. Then, when that forest regrew after the sheep craze ended, the forest was cut again. And this time for boxboard. And as it started to regrow, the state forest movement kind of came into being, and much of it was set aside. When I say much, probably 15%, 18%. And now, the land is still owned by lumber companies and private landowners who are paying taxes to the localities, ever-increasing taxes to support mandates coming from the cities, mandates for education, mandates for sewerage, mandates for everything that you can think of, passed by the city folk, paid by the local folk, right? When you come out into the countryside and you see how people live out here, they're kind of scrambling, aren't they? Unless it's a New York farm, right? Some New York money bought some property, and they've got the locals working as their modern-day serfs, taking care of them when they're not there, because they're not there most of the time. But the people that are living here, they're doing their thing. And they don't have a lot extra. And so when the opportunity presents itself, make a little extra money, and they got 75 acres of regrowing forest, they'll take the opportunity to do what they can to make the money. In this case, it's a solar farm. But the solar farm has created a pesticide-free zone. It's pollinator-friendly, helping to protect bees, butterflies, and other critters that don't like pesticides, like Tripoli and West Nile bearing mosquitoes. So be careful. So in this case, we're taking a look at a solar farm that's not as big as the last one you saw. This is a smaller size parcel. But again, this has been cut out of what was a hemlock and pine stand. And in this case, you can see from the trees behind, it was around 70, 80, even 100 years old. And what we have now is a field with a fence around it, some power poles and power lines. This is pumping sunlight-inspired power directly into the grid. This isn't powering somebody's factory or private home. This is a landowner who's making money the same way people made money back when they had merino sheep pasturing here, and they did. There's stone walls in the woods right on the other side of the line here. Before the stone walls and the merino sheep, this had been logged. This was pasturage for cattle, and this had been used for small farms. So this is another solar farm that's been plopped in. As you can see, the trees that border it are 80 years old, 70 years old. Again, it's been strip cut, and they plopped it in here. Don't say it's not happening. That's 3. I can give you 4, 5, 6, 7. Depends on how much gas I want to waste driving around. So behind me is a scene that a lot of you guys might recognize, and if you don't, right here in front of me is Connecticut Valley broadleaf tobacco, and the netting, well, the staging for the netting behind there is where they would grow Connecticut Valley shade tobacco. Those are the 2 tobaccos that have been grown here for a long time. Created the river gods, a group of people in the Pioneer Valley that were so wealthy that they dominated the political landscape of both Connecticut and Massachusetts. So this is an old crop. Here's a new crop. This is a crop that needs sunshine too. This was once acres of corn and acres of shade tobacco, and now it's acres of steel and glass. And the farmer, he's trying to make the land pay. He's trying to make the land work for him. Maybe this is going to save his farm. Maybe he's going to be able to continue to grow shade and broadleaf here where it's been grown for a long, long time into the future. And that's kind of what I hope. But at the same time, I kind of think we're looking at what you'd call unintended consequences, don't you? I'm not against clean energy. I'm out in the woods all the time, on the waters, ocean, river, lakes, ponds, in the hills, on tiny little streams. I care about the environment as much as anybody. And when solar and wind were proposed years ago, I was waving the banner. But what I've seen is not what we were told we were going to see. We were expecting to see solar farms along median strips and highways, along suburban strip malls, or on the roofs of such things, right? We were expecting to see solar arrays in the urban and maybe suburban environment. But because of badly written laws, we're seeing them in the middle of our forests, many of which are privately owned. These trails are actually right-of-ways granted by the landowners so people can move and hike and find fall oyster mushrooms like these. But what's happened now, because of badly written legislation, is these forests are starting to come down. And the first 3 forest clearances didn't happen immediately. They took their time. Was that the intent? To clear our forests, to put up solar panels? What about carbon locking? I thought our trees locked carbon. I guess not. I guess it doesn't matter. I guess we can sacrifice our trees for a clean energy future to offset China, India, and Brazil's carbon. Because, of course, America has made all kinds of sacrifices catalytic converters, computer-controlled carburetors, all that good stuff that you're paying a heck of a lot more for a new car to have in your car to protect your environment. China, India, Brazil, they're not doing that. The developing world. America's made sacrifices, and now we're going to make another one by clearing our forests for the sake of a carbon offset for people across the sea. Is that the intent? The intent is to sacrifice what we have because of fear, to sacrifice what we have now, what's returning to its past glory. How long is it going to take our Northeast forest to return to a near primal state with sage trees? You know, there's some big old oaks over there, but they're nowhere near what they should be. Our forest had oak and cherry and ash and beech and hemlock 6 feet across, chestnuts, elm. A lot of those trees are sick, dying, or dead. Our forest is fighting for its life, and here we are, willing to sacrifice a big chunk of it for another short-term gain. Because while it might make you happy to see those solar panels, are those solar panels truly as clean as you think they are? And who's making the money? Have you thought about it? Or you don't really want to think about it. You just want to smile as you drive by and think, oh, I charged my electric car with clean energy. Protect it or sacrifice it?